What do you
Okay,
think?
break free.
Oh,
So, the thing that last year was Shell Know what brought us all together, and we've done so much in that year since. This year, similar organizers are, well, I guess across the world, people are doing a campaign called Break Free from Fossil Fuels. And there's going to be mass civil disobedience up here in Anacortes on May 15th, May 13th, 14th, 15th. And it's been an interesting process being part of the organizing and seeing how different it is from last year, but still we're still kind of making those same mistakes. The main narrative is still limited to fossil fuel, and I think my learning from this process has been like, it's not just about fossil fuel. How do we educate even our own community that we need to target these systems of oppression, and it's not just Shell and Tesoro that we are fighting, which we are, but also like the whole system of capitalism and all the other systems of oppression. So it's been, that's what I'm really trying to do with some of my work, and I know you all have all been busy, but we're all gonna do this, and we're really trying to shift the narrative.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting. Just like the forethought put into it, and like working with labor, and working with indigenous communities whose land that we're standing on, and being able to like kind of organize that right. And yet at the same time, like there's still some a lot of, mainly as usual, like white males and sometimes white women who they don't get it, and their kind of ignorance that they introduce in the space can kind of make the space unsafe or uncomfortable for people of color. So I think that's it's interesting, again, like working in these spaces. For me, something that it's because of that's part of why I think it's important for us to be there. Is to kind of create that space for people of color, being that we're most affected. Like we have to, be in these spaces and create space for ourselves in like these white environmental spaces, because like we need to be at that table. We need to be like kind of on the front lines, as we already are so much so in life.
That's how I feel about what we're doing about decolonizing environmentalism, because we're actually taking it back. Like climate change is so relevant to all social justice issues, and yet the movement has made itself so irrelevant to people of color because of who's leading it, and that just kind of pisses me off, because this should be the easy, like this everyone can stand behind, but because it's been controlled by male, white, cis, male, like just not doing it right, making it unsafe, making it so that it's irrelevant to everybody, including people of color. And so, it's awkward for us to be in the last spaces. Like you dragged me to some like central district thing, and it was terrible.
what was this central district thing?
It was a land review use where Vulcan was like buying up like half of the central district.
God.
And there's like these white folks co-signing it and being like, this is gonna be good. Look, they gave you sidewalks.
Gentrification.
Yeah, and it was just such a terrible space, because they weren't utilizing progressive stack, because like the developers were just taking up so much space and like leaving 10 minutes for maybe community conversations when there was like 200 people there that had so many questions. And so it was just, but then it's like realizing, if we don't show up, if we don't come to those spaces, our voices, we won't be representative by anybody there if we don't show.
That's the critical analysis and voice that I think is part of the work that we're doing, is, because we are willing, and because we're putting ourselves in these spaces where it's not necessarily safe for us, but we're doing it because we know that if we're not there, there will be no one to actually raise these concerns or see these things. And there may be allies who are absolutely trying to, but the relevance that one of us or a person of color could bring to that same statement, a white person saying it is not going to bring the same relevance. And so there needs to be people of color such as ourselves, and women of color especially such as ourselves, but with white allies present to help make the space safer. That's very important. And anyone who considers themselves a white ally like needs to actually speak up in support of what people of color are saying. It's not enough just to be like, oh, yeah, I'm not racist. It's like, that doesn't make you an ally, right? Like you're an ally if you actually stand up and speak up and show up, you know?
I think a lot of like, especially our first town hall event, like if we didn't get all of the majority white led nonprofits, if they didn't like sponsor us, I don't think it would have showed up. Like it wouldn't been as relevant to the environmentalists for them. I mean, even though you guys were already like doing big things and already getting media attention, but I think that's the importance of I see our work is that we're doing it in conjunction with a lot of allies.
It's true. I mean, we started this whole thing, with the Cascadia Climate Collaborative, right? Which is like this white-led, in partnership with the Whitby Institute, and that was, that was part of creating that sense of credibility that colonized people need. They need to see that someone's credible before they'll listen, and part of the work that we've been doing is decolonizing that and saying all of your ideas of all your titles and all your this and all your that, it's not relevant because it's the most marginalized people. But we had to build that first.
I don't know though. I think
dismantle
like
it.
as soon as we announced it, people were excited to hear what we had to say. I think just the title, Women of Color Speak Out, Changing the Climate of Climate Change, I think that drew a lot of attention. And I think the community has been, even if they haven't been ready to hear the things that we've said, they've been open to listening to us, I think.
The people that we know, because a lot of people
Yeah.
who know us, and so the people who are most active in the movement because they knew us, they were really excited. But in terms of like the wider mainstream, because like even when we're talking about Seattle, like Seattle itself, even within the mainstream is radical, right? Like even as mainstream as it is still, there's this element of like militant radical, work that happens in Seattle that doesn't necessarily happen in other places. So from that perspective, yeah, like people were really excited about it. But the other names, like the bigger names, right? Like those people, that development that we had of like credibility helped to put us in places that we would not normally have been. I feel.
Well, part of it is like, one of the posts this week was I was pissed about one of the delegates, Bernie Sanders delegates in Seattle that got arrested, and I was super pissed that it was like, why she's unarmed, she's there to keep her elected officials accountable, and she got arrested because of what? Because of racism, oppression. So I think, we were at Patty Murray's office a few times, and I think the only reason that we may have not gotten arrested was because we had the raging grannies with us.
Exactly. It's so true. It's absolutely true. I mean, if it, like the establishment is looking for any way that they can bring us down, but if we show up with allies and if we show up with that strength of unity, and like the fact that when we went to Senator Patty Murray's office, we had the raging grannies, we had white males who were there to like show up for us, because they were genuine allies, and that was part of our strength. The fact that they couldn't do anything, because what were they going to do? Like go after elderly white women in Senator Patty Murray's office? Like they were never going to do that. They totally wanted to go after us. They would have done it in a second. But because we had that, we were able to create that measure of safety, and that's something that people around the country and around the world need to know. Is like in terms of tactics, like when we go after people in office, we have to make sure that we're creating as much safety as possible.
And I think this speaks to like a lot of people, allies want to stand solidarity. I think that when like I think it's so easy to do that in like a room or like in an office between 9 to 5. I think it's so important. I would push our allies to also stand when there is a black male being interrogated by a cop, to record that and to actually stand and witness what is happening, because that's what is wrong, is there's not enough allies angry about a lot of these social justice issues.
Allyship is this whole other topic. We should save it for next time. And we should go get some ice cream.
Vegan ice cream, thank you.
Sugar-free.
Sugar-free, yes.
Okay,
Xylitol vegan
we're
ice cream.
Women of Color Speak Out, and we do a presentation called Climate Change and the Systems of Oppression. And we love to do these presentations at different spaces. We don't love to do it, but we do it.
And we're coming to you from the front lines of white fragility. Here in the trenches, this is Women of Color Speak Out at Photon Factory. Peace
Over
out.
and out.
Peace out.